Alright, I'll say, how are you all this evening of your time as you create time to exist? Thank you very much. We'll begin this interaction this evening of your time with the entitlement, your choice. Recognize one of the ideas that is, shall we say, key in our communications with your civilization is the simple fact that you do indeed create your own reality. This is a term which has become, shall we say, a bit more popular in your civilization. It is not that it is from us, but that sentiment, shall we say, that vibration allows us to communicate with you, for that is the level that we exist upon. We do own and therefore consciously create our own reality 100% of the time. The idea being that in order to indeed create your own reality in a conscious way, you must own what it is you have already created. You cannot change what you do not own. And therefore, by simply owning what you already do create, you allow yourself then the opportunity to change it if you so desire. This allows you to determine your preference, and then when creating your reality in a conscious way, allows you to use your preference to create it according to that preference. And then what happens is you transform the reality into that which you say you desire. Very often, when individuals are made aware that they do indeed create their own reality, it sounds very nice, but they wondered how to go about doing so. And the beginning, the key, is owning what you already believe. For when you will be willing to own it, you will then allow yourself the opportunity to change it. So in a sense, you may say, what it is we are about to impart, about to speak about, is in a sense, loosely speaking, in your colloquial language, an introductory chapter, if you will, in that owner's manual of how to create your own reality. And all it is a simple suggestion of how you may change your perspective just a bit. Recognize that simply changing your perspective a teeny little bit can have a grand sweeping change in the reality of your life. It is simple, small perspectives that you automatically create your life with anyway. And therefore, by taking hold of them and having some idea about a different way to perceive them, you give yourself a new opportunity to perceive them. Therefore, we will revert, in that sense, back to the title, Your Choice. When you do perceive that your reality is occurring to you, and that you are within a world or a reality, you do create the idea you label predicaments. We wish now to relabel the idea of predicament to the idea of choice. For when you begin to even use that terminology, when you even begin to pre-assume that you are making a choice, you then take back your ability to change that choice, realizing that the thing you are choosing has no more inherent weight than any other choice. Therefore, in that sense, it is always your choice. When you perceive that you have attracted a particular situation, we will no longer use the phraseology predicament, but a situation whereby you normally have a particular reaction. If you will but take a few breaths, relax yourself, become centered, and simply reword that this is a choice, you will then give yourself the opportunity to begin to view the other choices. And this is one of the ways when in the moment you can change what you perceive to be automatic, habitual reactions. Nothing in that sense can actually force you to have a reaction other than your willingness to perpetuate that by labeling it that way. It is always, in any given situation, your choice. Now, it may seem that why would I choose such a thing? But for a long time, you have been creating your reality automatically, unconsciously. And there is, shall we say, some momentum, sort of, behind those ideas. Therefore, when you will begin to change them, it will take but a break in how you perpetuate it. And by looking at anything as, in that moment, a choice, you then give yourself the option of choosing something else, something you may indeed prefer instead. So when a situation comes along that you do not desire, and you are, shall we say, colloquially speaking, about to get upset, you can, at that moment, if you are even aware that it is possible, take a few breaths, center yourself, and recognize, I am about to get upset. That is a choice. Now that I recognize that I am about to choose to create upset, what are some of the other choices available to me? It is actually that simple in those situations to go through this wording. Now, you may indeed choose to get very upset. Remember, it is always your choice. But you can then look at the other options of other things that are immediately available for you to do. If you will but list, even go through the process of listing your other choices, and then when looking at all the choices that are actually available to you, choose the one you prefer, the one that excites you the most, you can then avoid that seeming reaction. And instead of having a reaction, you can perform a preferred action. In a sense, what you label reaction is actually an action that you have labeled to be out of your control, and it is not. All emotions are anyway, are, in a loose sense, reactions to belief systems. So if you are feeling a particular emotion, it is not that that is your lot in life. It is that you have a belief which, within the situation you are in, is causing you to create a corresponding emotion. You can work it backwards the other way. You can, now that you recognize that emotions are but reactions to a belief, when you have the emotion, question yourself. What must I be believing to be having this emotion? This is one of the easiest and simplest ways to nail down your current beliefs. As we began by saying, you can only change it if you own it. So the first step will always be to own, to admit to yourself what it is you do believe. For then you allow yourself the opportunity to change it by recognizing that it is a choice to believe. When you function from the perspective that seeing is believing, that does not take into consideration that the actual mechanism is that believing is seeing. What you believe, you will see. So you will always get the evidence to support any belief system that you have. By changing your belief system, the evidence will change if you will allow it to. For everything is created in that order. Therefore, it is always your choice and not something happening to you. In actuality, the mechanism is that you create life through you, from you. You are not within a reality. The reality is being projected, paradoxically, from you. And the paradox is that it seems to be happening from each and every one of you, and it actually is. You are finite beings. You are expressions of consciousness that are exploring the idea of finite-ness. The overwhelming overall nature of God, or what we prefer to label all that is infinite in finite. And therefore, when choosing to explore being finite, there are certain ideas about infinity which by definition of that exploration are difficult, if not, quote, impossible to understand from a finite viewpoint. When you do perceive the idea of paradox, in general, that is ideas, infinite ideas, being interpreted on a finite level. So therefore, from your finite level, it would not seem at all possible that each one of you could be creating the entire universe at the same time, because this is an infinite concept. One of the renderings of finite exploration is what you label, or what we will label, the this or that phenomena. It has to be this or that. Cannot be both. They are mutually exclusive. That is an exploration. And if you do believe it, you will perceive the this or that perspective. But a infinite perspective is that in actuality, it is always this and that, both. Which do you prefer? Therefore, things that have seemed to be mutually exclusive are actually both true. But they are only simply true from the beings or the entities that are within that standpoint. The ultimate truth would, by definition, need be composed of all truths. You cannot leave any one particular truth out, or it would not ultimately be the truth. Therefore, things that seem, in a sense, to be opposite of each other are simply different expressions that are just as true. This perspective allows you now to validate all realities. If you do not prefer a particular reality, a particular choice, if you will, you do not have to continue the line of thinking to then say, that which you do not prefer stinks. That is simply a perspective. You can simply now say, I prefer this, I do not prefer that. The thing that I do not prefer is no less valid. What that does is give you equality in the ideas. That gives you equal access to exercise your faculty of choice. If one choice has more weight than another, you may be more prone to choose that thing. By validating all realities, you give yourself equal choice of any possibility. By invalidating something, you may think you give it less weight, but in fact, you give it more. You, in that sense, put undue attention upon it and increase its weight. So therefore, by taking the choices that you do not prefer and simply allowing them to be, doesn't mean you need condone them, doesn't mean you need put energy behind them, but allowing them to be their own valid reality, you equalize all choices to give you equal access to anything you choose. Now you can begin to recognize you can choose a life you do prefer. You can only do so, however, by first of all establishing what are your preferences. You may ask, how does one do so? Allow us now to impart a very simple way which you present to yourself constantly within your reality, your preference. And this is the idea of your excitement. What you are excited about is a reflection of what it is you chose to be. The emotion, if you will call it that, of excitement, is simply the physicalized translation of the vibratory energy of that which you chose to be in this lifetime. That is why certain things will excite you and not another. Doesn't mean they're crazy. simply means it is indicative of your preference. When we speak about excitement, we speak about using it as an arrow. In any given moment, if you will allow yourself to define what your choices are, and then not simply choosing anyone randomly, but by using that which does excite you from the available choices as the way to proceed, you will be acting as the best you can be. That is, again, your higher self indicating to you that you have chosen that thing. If you will begin to do this on a moment-to-moment level, then what begins to happen is you are now being the expression you have chosen to be most fully, without any doubt. The universe then will support you most fully, for the universe is supportive. You were bequeathed creation, therefore you deserve by convention to exist. Now simply grant yourself being the you chose to be. And the universe will support you most fully in your recognition of that as a choice and your decision, your conscious commandment to now do that according to preference. Therefore, by following your excitement, you will always be led to the next most exciting thing. You will always find that exciting thing to be most effortless. And lastly, the universe will always provide all the abundance that you need in order to continue to be most you. And therefore, you create a line or a thread of incidences happening at the same time, coincidences, that will provide your needs in your life, many times seemingly very much by surprise. And therefore, your life then begins to flow in a most direct way. And in fact, what occurs is what we have labeled the ecstatic explosion of coincidences. Your needs are met, generally in the most unexpected ways, right on time. When we do speak about the idea of functioning within your excitement, we always add the label to do so with integrity. What we mean by that, however, is not the general moralistic integrity that you speak of in your society, which is, by the way, rather arbitrary and varies from perspective to perspective. But we are speaking about the idea of your recognition of integration. Integration simply meaning that we are all, in that sense, one thing, one event. And if you will begin to act as though you believe that, then your actions toward anything in your outer world will change. For you will always, in thinking that everything is all one thing that is what you are a part of, treat anything with the same respect you desire to be treated with. That only goes in that sense to say. So therefore, the idea of integrity, recognition of the integration of all things, is one of the other ideas that we lump with functioning from your excitement. And by doing so, functioning from your excitement within integrity, you will always be leading a life that will bring you where you want to be the quickest, and will never along the way inadvertently harm yourself or others. For there will be no need to impose your reality upon others. Simply you will accept their reality as gifts which you may or may not choose to accept. Also, when you are speaking to people about who you are, it is very, shall we say, constructive to have the same attitude yourself, that you are giving a gift without, in that sense, insisting that it must be accepted. You do not need in that way to get insulted. People get what they need to get from any interaction anyway, automatically. So do not feel you need be responsible for each and every little detail. You cannot in that sense be responsible for anyone else anyway. Simply responsible to them by being responsible for yourself. And the way to do this most fully is to be the you chose to be. And allow that to be a living example, a living reflection to others. For that is the most powerful symbol you create in your reality, a living example. You do not need in that sense to convince anybody of anything if you are a living example of it. For you will show them right in front of their eyes that such a thing is possible if they should choose to take it. But they do not have to. By simply arguing a point and not acting as an example of it, shall we say, that does not carry much weight either. So now, if you will begin to view the choices you have made, if you will begin to own the reality as you have already created it, you then get to decide, what do I like about it? What do I wish to transform about it? You get to keep the things you like, but you also get to transform that which you do not. Now, I have not said get rid of the things you do not prefer. You are, each and every one of you, the entire universe. Where are you going to get rid of anything to? It is all within you. So simply getting rid of something or attempting, quote, to get rid of something is invalidating it. If you will validate it, that does not mean you need to keep it hanging around. It will transform. And that is the difference between attempting, as you say, to get rid of something you do not prefer, and what we are speaking about, transforming or integrating that which you do not prefer. These are but minuscule differences in the way to perceive these matters. Does not seem like very much. However, it can be experientially very much. And it is that simple. Remember, you create your reality through your actions. But your actions are determined by what it is that you believe. So you can simply change your life by weeding out those beliefs you do not prefer and assigning a new preferred belief. One last idea before we open up this interaction for the sharing is that once you do choose your choice, once you do choose a new belief, one may ask, well, then what? The simplest answer that I can possibly give that will allow you right now, which is the only experiential time there ever is anyway, to manifest the new change, is to simply determine what it is that you did believe, determine the new choice, and then act as though you already are the new belief system. Act as though a person would act if they already believed it. That puts you in action of the vibration of a person with that belief. And you will reap the benefits of the new belief by acting that way. Then you will have the evidence you, quote, say you need in order to continue to believe the new preferred thing. It is that simple. There is, in that sense, nothing more to it than that. So therefore, exercise your choice by recognizing things as choices rather than things that have been imposed upon you. You are expressing appreciation for your creatorhood. And by expressing that appreciation, you will reap the benefit of it. For you can always appreciate everything, even that which you label negative. For it all has been created by you for a reason. And if you will allow it to deliver the positive reason, it will transform. Needless to say, if you will continue to glean the negative reason, you have seen that these things have a tendency to then hang around. It is your choice. Therefore, in appreciation for your willingness to share the expanding aspects and explorations of your consciousness, and allow me to share my perceptions, my perspectives of my and my society's consciousness. I ask you now, how may I be of service to you?